Assalamu alaikum, greetings of peace. Have you ever thought about coaching your own mind? We all go through stress, depression, and so many other problems that our mind is trying to cope. We have experts in the community who can help us. I'm Farina Siddiqui, your host for Community Rockers Show at MCMN. We have one such expert in our show today, Brother Mohammed Sheikh. He would like to talk about how he does the coaching of the mind to help people in the community. So let's hear it from him. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Muhammad.
Wa alaikum salam. How's it going?
Good, great, and thank you so much for being on our show.
For
and
sure.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so
You're
much.
helping a lot of people, and I would like to hear about the coaching techniques that you have.
Sure,
and
alhamdulillah.
how you call yourself as a mind mechanic.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even really know where to begin, but it's one of those things that, for me, it was something that I started for myself. I mean, I've been in sales for a good part of my life early on, and there was a set of tools and techniques that actually helped me understand why I behave the way I do, right? And why some things are so difficult for me, but they're very easy for some other people, and why some things are very easy for me and they're very difficult. So that's just kind of what led me on this journey. And now I work with people from both sides. I work with individuals who have a problem. We call it remedial change. Maybe they have an anxiety, or they have a phobia, or they're depressed, or any of those things, and they need something fixed, right? At the same time, I work with a lot of individuals who are already great at something, and they just want to take it to the next level. Perhaps there's more confidence for a presentation that they need to give, or an interview, or they're trying to get a promotion at work, right? So both sides of the spectrum.
So is it not psychology or psychiatry? Or?
No, not at all. Actually,
Okay.
I am the complete inverse, right, of psychology. I did not go to school for psychology, or I went to school. I have a computer science background.
Okay.
Right. So definitely not that. It's a very different approach, right? And in my opinion, while psychoanalysis, for example, it has its benefits, right? There's much faster ways, because the way our brain works, right? In the neuroscience, that's now really starting to become accepted in the West. The eastern part of the world has known for ages, but the western part of the world, it allows people to have rapid changes, and permanent changes. One of the best. And it sounds almost extreme, like you don't want to believe it. And even for me, I was skeptical until I saw the results over and over again. But I had this one lady who came to me after seeing, a psychologist for a year, right, to treat postpartum depression, and it helped. But after 2.5 hour session with me, her life was completely different. It was all gone.
That's great.
Right?
That's great.
It's the power of our unconscious mind, and it's the tools that allow that to happen.
So, what is the name of this technique, and
Sure.
what are those tools that you use?
Yeah, of course, right? So my beginning was essentially I'm trained in something called NLP,
Okay.
right? Neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay.
If you've never heard of NLP, probably most people have not, right? But have you heard of Anthony Robbins or Tony Robbins? No? Okay, well, he's really big in the US. He's a motivational speaker. He's actually coached 3 of the 5 previous presidents. Right, not Trump. But it's a very effective tool. And Tony Robbins is someone that's taken NLP and has really made it a real big thing, right?
Okay.
So that's essentially the name. But then I followed NLP up with hypnosis. So I'm a certified master hypnotist,
Okay.
right? I followed that up with trainings, around HeartMath. And this is an organization for the last 35 years that has been doing a lot of research around the energetics of our body,
Okay.
and most importantly, the energetics of our heart, and how the intuition and wisdom lives in the heart. And that was an amazing experience. I remember I was sitting in class and I asked a question about around the wisdom of the heart, and the heart being the central place. And the head researcher, that the guy who's actually done the majority of the research for the HeartMath organization, he's not Muslim, but he looks at me and he says, "Well, you're Muslim, right?" And I'm like, "Yes," right? And he's like, "Yeah, so you actually have all of this already in the Quran."
Wow.
And isn't that true? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always talks about the heart. If the heart is good, the rest of everything will be good, right? So, you know, and then I followed that up. But essentially, for the last 10 years, I've been traveling the world, getting my hands on as different types of methods, right? Which will just allow me to help individuals faster and quicker and just permanent changes.
That's great.
So,
that's great.
In a
So,
nutshell.
like for instance, I know it's a vast topic.
Yes.
How do you describe, like, you know, helping people? Like, for instance, if I have some kind of depression or stress,
Sure.
we all have stresses.
Yeah.
How would you help me?
Well, you know, it's always not such a clear-cut answer, right? The very first thing that I say is most of the people that come to me, whatever it is, whether it's depression or stress or whether it's just I don't want to be nervous for an interview, right? They spend so much time trying not to be something.
Okay.
They try so much time not to be nervous. They try to spend so much time basically pushing the stress away, right? And the first thing that I teach them, and really I'm a teacher more than a therapist or anything, but the first thing that I teach them is that you need to honor that part of you.
Okay.
Right? You're feeling those emotions for a reason. And that's inside you, that's a part of you. So you need to kind of have that conversation with that part of you that's producing the stress, producing the anxiety, producing the phobia, producing the nervousness, wherever that might be. And once you build that relationship, then you can understand what's really going on behind this, underneath the surface, right? And that's where NLP is really good at, because once we can understand the positive intention, right, behind every behavior, then we can essentially come together with new behaviors that allow for that positive intention, but without the bad behavior. So without the anxiety, without that, right? In a nutshell, it's one of those things hard to describe, but when you go through it, you get it.
Welcome back. We were talking to Brother Mohammed Sheikh about NLP. So let's hear more about NLP and hypnosis. So you just said hypnosis.
I
you
did.
Provide support.
That always gets us stirred in a group.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. So there's that stigma attached to that.
Yeah.
So is it halal and is it acceptable, or how would you describe it and what you have been doing within it?
Yeah, so, you know, fair question, and I get that a lot. You know, sometimes I'll be invited to speak to a group, nothing to do with NLP or hypnosis, maybe just a leadership thing, but they introduced me as a hypnotist, and everyone's like, oh, tell us about that, right? So people are fascinated by it, of course, right? And the stigmatism behind hypnosis, whether it's halal, it's very valid. It's a very valid concern. To be honest, when I was first kind of introduced to it, right, or rather the opportunity to actually be trained in it, I too had my reservations, right? I remember I went to the first class and I was like, you know, reciting waqals and, you know, reading Surah Al-Fatiha and everything, right? You know, just making sure, right? So, very valid concern, right?
Right.
So the truth is there's nothing at all to be concerned about. There's actually a lot of scholars who know what hypnosis is. Even on Islam QA, you can go and Google, search it there, and you'll find that it's completely halal, right?
Okay.
You have to understand, because the thing is, media and movies, television, all that, they've done a really good job of making hypnosis seem like something that is mind control.
Right.
Right.
This is what I have in my mind.
100%, right?
Impression.
Exactly, and it's because of the media, right? And it can't be further from the truth, right? Because when someone is in trance, right, they are actually in more control of themselves, right? And the truth is that, you know, on one side, there really is no such thing as hypnosis, right? And then the other side, everything is hypnosis, that we're actually always in a state of trance, right? Even right now, as you're you know, you're listening to the sound of my voice, and the people watching this video, they're focused in on what I'm saying, right? They're totally listening to what I'm saying, but they're not necessarily aware of the feeling of their right hand until I just mentioned it, right? And now you're aware of the feeling of your left foot, right? And so we have our attention that shifts from point to point to point. And there's a lot of things that we do unconsciously without conscious awareness, right? So when we're driving, for example, no one really consciously drives unless they're driving for the first time. Right. And they could, especially if it's a regular commute, right? They can literally drive past a guy in a red bear costume and not even notice him. Right, because they were just totally zoned in whatever they're doing. Their thoughts were somewhere else, right? Or most guys, you'll often see them in the TV trance, right? The TV trance, or the Facebook trance,
or
the phone trance, right? And so that's really what it is. It's and what I like to tell people is my job isn't actually to hypnotize anyone. My job is actually to dehypnotize.
Okay.
Right, and what I mean by that is we always have so many bits of information hitting us from all different angles, so many voices, so many thoughts at all times. So it's like, when was the last time that you had a clear tunnel or clear access to just that one voice, which is your unconscious mind?
That's
right?
interesting.
And so rather than mind control, what hypnosis really is it's a state of complete focus and complete concentration to yourself.
Okay.
Right? And so a lot of the times we're very good at lying to ourselves. Like, so it's like, hey, why did you do bad in your interview? Well, the interviewer didn't like me. Or, I was in a rush, or I was sick, and all that sort of stuff, right? And they'll come with all these reasons, right, that perhaps are true, right? But then in trance, for example, you can ask, what's the real reason? And the unconscious mind will give it to you. So it's that having that clear, focused relationship with what's really going on. And that's really why I do hypnosis, right? Because it is so far the fastest and easiest method that I found to help people build better relationships with their internal intuition and their internal wisdom.
And
right?
Does it help with anxiety and those other problems?
Sure, 100%. Right? Because again, like going back to what I said earlier, is that all of these things are kind of symptoms, right? But not the core, right? It's just we all behave in the way we behave, but there's always a positive intention, and it's about understanding what that positive intention is. So yeah, 100%.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, time is never enough. It's a pleasure having you and learning about this.
For sure.
Tell me more about your family background, your life as a father,
Yeah.
I believe, and how do you create that balance?
For sure. So I am the youngest of 4 children, right? My parents are from Pakistan. I was born in Pakistan as well, right? We moved to New York when I was 4 and came to Canada when I was 7. So pretty much grew up here. I got married at the age of 23. So I've been married 11 years now, alhamdulillah, right? And if you guys need proof if this stuff works, I've been married 11 years. I've never had a fight with my wife.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, I'll leave it to you guys to kind of figure out what that means. But and we have a 7-year-old son, right? Alhamdulillah. And life's great, and NLP for me has been such a big part because it gave me the tools and the resources to really make my dreams happen. Right.
That's great.
For me, Ibrahim was about 1.5 years old, and I was working, in the whole corporate world, right? And I was top 10%. I was in sales, as I know you know, and I was top 10% of the company. But I was working 60 hours a week, right? And I would come home, and I saw my son, and he was like 1.5 years old, and I'm like, how did you become 1.5 years? Like, when did this happen? Right? And I'm like, why am I doing this all for? Right? What's the whole point? And so within a few months, I actually ended up handing in my resignation.
Okay.
Right? And I started building the lifestyle that, inshallah, and I'm still working on, right? But building that lifestyle that is the reason why I do everything.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful thought we are ending with. We all come across with life situations. We don't actually get to understand that our life is kind of running away from our heads.
Yeah.
And good thing that you make that decision, and we have you as an expert to help more people.
Sure.
Thank you so much for being on our show.
Perfect. No, thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So time is never enough, but thank you so much for being on our show. Would you like to say anything to our viewers?
No, for sure. I mean, what I'd just love to say is just words of encouragement that if you take a look at how life is and what you're doing, And if there's anything that you're not happy with, the question is, what are you doing to actually change that? And to that effect, if I can plug in my workshop right now, I'm running 2 sessions of my crash course to NLP workshop in September. And these guys usually, last time it sold out a month before we even started. I just opened up registration, 5 spots are already taken, so there's another 15 left. But essentially, most importantly, what I teach is life tools and principles that will allow you to have rapid changes in your life, to resolve conflicts, to understand where other people are coming from in terms of their communication and their viewpoints, to understand how to quickly change states. We even do exercises around reading other people's facial expressions and body languages, using hypnotic language patterns for influence, all for the power of good, of course. So we cover a lot of stuff, and that's all really about my life mission, which is helping you, inshallah, to just be better and happier, because that's inshallah what the goal is, right?
Thank you so much. Keep watching us, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. I'm your host, Reena Siddiqui. Until our next show, thank you. Assalamu alaikum.